In times like these, we all need a word of encouragement. From pastor and best-selling author Max Lucado comes the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast. With over 40 years of ministry and more than 145 million books sold in 50 languages, Max shares the greatest story ever told, the living Savior who brings hope for a lifetime. Through rich biblical insight, heartfelt storytelling, you'll be reminded that God is always near, always for you, and always in you. Listen to the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast, where hope meets your day. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970, The Answer. Go vote.
All right, that's a Shake It Off favorite, is it not, Alex?
Oh, it totally is. This is Go Vote by Chris Pixar.
Go vote. Well, I'm so excited about our next guest, Jami Floyd. She's an American attorney, journalist, and legal analyst whose career spans more than 2 decades across national television, radio, and public policy reporting. She served as a legal and political analyst for ABC News, MSNBC, and Al Jazeera America, and previously anchored and hosted programming for Court TV, WNYC, including All Things Considered. I'm a big fan. She's a native New Yorker, earned her BA in political science with a journalism concentration from Binghamton University, her JD with honors from UC Berkeley School of Law, and later an LLM from Stanford, where she also served as a teaching fellow. Now, before she entered journalism, she clerked at the California Supreme Court and worked as a trial attorney in the San Francisco Public Defender's Office. Didn't know that. In 2024, Floyd launched a congressional campaign in New York's 12th District. Now, she later suspended that campaign, citing systemic and structural barriers that shaped the race. She continues to speak publicly about those challenges and the broader issues facing first-time and non-traditional candidates, and we're going to be speaking to Jami about that. But before we do, I did want to add she's also the author of a forthcoming book, Dream Interrupted, which explores the life and legacy of Thurgood Marshall, and we're excited about that project as well. Welcome to the program, Jami.
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen.
Jami,
now,
I'm
you know
so
what?
excited.
Before you go, Lucas.
Bert's ready. Bert's already overstepping. He
Because
loves
this
you,
is my
Jami. He loves you.
Listen. This is my friend. You're not going to come in and hog.
Oh, here we go.
This is my friend. I brought her on to the show. We don't even have a guest in the first hour or the first half of the hour.
This is history in the making, Jami. No, we never have a guest first segment. So for you,
I feel special.
Yes, I said for my friend, we got to make this happen. So I just want to say welcome, and now Lucas, you can get to your first question because you're not about to drown me out.
Thank you.
You could ask the first question.
Because Lucas is long-winded. He'll be asking a question for 30 minutes, and I might not even get to say hi to you. So Lucas, now
you know how we lawyers do.
Yeah, I know exactly. I know.
Okay. Well, how about let's start from the very beginning. What motivated you to enter the race in the first place? What did you hope to bring to the conversation in your district, Jami?
Well, I was tired of politics as usual. I feel that the Democrats are weak. They're losing. They're losers. I felt angry about Donald Trump coming back into power, and I was not mad at the Trumpers. I was mad at us. We were angry about Trump, but we were not angry with the right people. The people to be angry with was the Democratic leadership, and I ran to call that out. So I'm a plain-spoken woman. My mother was from Texas, right, Mert?
That's right.
And so I speak my truth, and you know, I believe in civility. I believe in having conversations with respect, but I also believe in speaking truth, and so that's why I ran. I didn't hear anybody calling it as I saw it, and so that's why I got into the race.
Well, what surprised you most about the realities of running for Congress, Jami? What were some of the ugly realities? Come on, give it to us.
Well, look, I knew getting into the race that one of the biggest problems, and I will say the biggest problem with our politics in America, and this is on both sides of the aisle, this can't be blamed on one side or the other, is the money. The money is killing, strangling our democracy. It's not one person, one vote, or what we used to say, one man, one vote. It's $1, one vote. You've got to spend so much time raising money that you're not talking to the voters. You're not talking to the people. You're not thinking about policy and politics. You're raising money. And if you don't come into the race with a big machine behind you, either the Democratic Party machine or the Republican Party machine, or you're from a dot-com wealthy background like one of the candidates in this race, or you're from a big political family like another candidate in this race, or you're George Conway, you don't stand a chance. You cannot be the regular person from Main Street or Mayberry and run for Congress. And that is corrupt, or for any office, for governor, for the state house, and certainly for President of the United States. And that is corrupting our politics from top to bottom. And I think people know it, but they don't know what to do about it. And that is, I knew that going into the race, but you really see it from the inside. You see how the sausage is made when you have to sit tethered to your chair 8 hours a day, 8 to 12 hours a day, dialing for dollars. It's really disgusting.
So you're a big proponent for campaign finance reform, and how do you think it should now manifest? In what form? Should the government be subsidizing campaigns, or there should be some sort of fund that candidates can draw from?
All that. We need reform top to bottom. I mean, we like that phrase, campaign finance reform, but Lucas and Mert, it makes most people yawn. I mean, I mean, is that exciting? Campaign finance reform?
Nobody.
Yawn.
The regular person
everybody wants to talk about the Epstein files, or they want to talk about the latest scandal that's going on in Washington. They don't want to talk about any campaign finance reform. It's dull. But that is what we need. And the real problem is that the very people who have to pass the reform are benefiting from the corruption. They're the people who are in office. So it's a real catch-22. It's like asking people, are you for term limits? Well, they say they're for term limits until they're in office, and then suddenly they're not for term limits because they would be the very people who would be disadvantaged by the term limits. Another thing I ran on.
Let me ask you a clarifying question. So can you help me, distinguish between somebody who's rich and they're just using their cash to fund their campaign, and they're doing a tremendous job because they have all this money and they might have connections, versus somebody who's trying to raise money and you don't have as much money as your competitor? And some people might say, well, you're complaining, but this person was successful, therefore they had money. And if you had the money in that same position, you would do the same thing. So can you help clarify what the difference is? Because I can see a lot of people saying, well, this person is already rich, why wouldn't they use their money? And it sounds like you're complaining. So can you clarify the difference?
Right. Okay. So this is very, let me try and make it as interesting as I can. So first of all, no individual can give more than a set amount of money to a campaign. That's by law, right? I can only give you, Mert, if you run for office in a primary for Congress, $3,500. That's set by law. And it doesn't matter if I'm a multimillionaire. That is all I can give you. The problem, and so that's okay, right? I mean, $3,500 is a lot of money for some people, but that's a limit, that's a cap. And that limit will change perhaps in the next cycle, but for now, that's a limit. The problem comes when we start talking about, and we've all heard the words, PACs and super PACs and dark money, the things that aren't given directly to the candidate, but that happen alongside the campaign to support the candidate or torpedo a candidate that you might not like. Remember those ads we saw about Kamala? Don't trust Kamala. She's not on your side. Well, those weren't paid for. Those weren't paid for by an individual. Those are paid for by multimillionaires, sometimes Elon Musk, sometimes other people. And there aren't limits placed on how much a person or a corporation can give to a PAC or a super PAC, because that has been deemed by the U.S. Supreme Court to be what? Free speech.
So, Jami, what's stopping you from going and joining up with the organizations that would give you the money from these super PACs? Because I'm going to challenge you on that.
He wants you to go to the dark side. He wants you to go to the dark side, Jami.
I'm asking. Go ahead, Jami.
My ethics is what stopped me. Now, I can't speak about others. But I got to a place in the campaign, right to an inflection point in the campaign, where I was going to have to make choices about whether or not to align myself and my campaign and my people on my campaign with groups that would give me that kind of money. Not me directly, but that would advertise for me or advertise against my opponents and do some digging against my opponents and get invested in my campaign with a lot of money, more than they could give to me as an individual. And that's when I really started to do some soul searching about whether I had the stomach for it and whether my ethical compass was about that. And I said to myself, Mert and Lucas, I said, why am I running if I'm going to do that? I'm becoming the very thing that I was running against. That is not who I want to be in the world. That's not why I'm running. In fact, that's exactly what I don't want to be as a political person, as a politician. And that was the day I decided to drop out.
So you think the Supreme Court made a big mistake with Citizens United, which allowed PACs to do with these kind of activities that you've been talking about? Big mistake?
I do, Lucas, but you'll know this as a lawyer. We all like to talk about Citizens United, and it was a bad decision. But these cases actually go way back before Citizens United, all the way back to a case called Buckley v. Vallejo, which is back from when I was a little kid. The Supreme Court has been opening the door to this little by little until Citizens United just blew it wide open. But they've been saying that dollars are speech for quite some time. And it goes way back, and it's not, we like to blame it on we Democrats like to blame it on the Republicans. We like to point at John Roberts and the Citizens United Court. But the original case was an AFL-CIO case. Actually, before I was a kid, it was back in the 40s when FDR, that great liberal, was running. And the unions wanted to support him. And the question was whether or not they could use their money as speech to support FDR. So the cases go all the way back to the post-war era, the post-World War II era. So this is not something new. This is not just Citizens United. This is it's kind of a conundrum in our Constitution, because I believe in free speech, and I know the two of you do, because I listen to your show.
Right.
So this is, if we all believe in speech, we got that on the one hand, but we've really got a problem in our politics on the other, and we've got to figure out how to rein in this money without squelching our speech.
Now, let me ask you one final question before Lucas gets done with you. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like it would have been possible for you to link up with these organizations and maybe shift how they think? Maybe you could have been the change that they needed in the super PAC and all the money that came with it. You could have weaponized it and created some change. Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just trying to get how you think out there. Do you feel that there could be a way where somebody could actually utilize these super PACs for good, or is it just complete? If it's just so corrupt that it needs to just be done away with completely?
Well, look, I don't want to be so discouraging of people who might want to serve and might want to run for office, because I do believe that we need people who want to serve. I don't want to be so cynical that, young people who want to get into politics say, oh, well, I heard that lady say, all hope is lost. Let me go do something else. There are people who have run without this money and gotten into Congress and into other offices and have tried to hold the line without it. And there are a couple people in this very race, New York 12, who are saying they will not take this super PAC money. Won't take PAC money, any PAC money. So I think it is possible. I can only speak for myself, Mert. As what happened was I got into the race, and originally there was one candidate in the race and me. And then there were two candidates, and then there were four. And suddenly I was looking at four wealthy, very, very wealthy candidates with a lot of money behind them, and me, a girl from the ghetto. So the girl from the ghetto, if she was going to compete with Kennedy Schlossberg, George Conway, and two machine politicians, there was no way I could compete with those four without some real heft and money on my side. And so that's who I was, and those were the decisions I had to make. But each individual has to make different choices for themselves. So I don't want to be telling other people what to do. I can only tell you the choice I was staring down. And for me, it was time to step out of the race.
You know what? That was a very lawyer answer. That was you're very skilled, because you danced around that. But you know what? We got to have you back on, because
I was trying to be honest, Mert.
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes, Jami, unfortunately.
That's gifted right there. That was a gifted response right there. I appreciate that. That's the skills right there.
In the 2 minutes we have left, Jami, so then what advice would you give to a young person who doesn't come from wealth or political lineage or has that institutional backing? What final words of advice would you give to them before we end our segment?
I would say if you're interested in public service and you're a young person, start early. Start really early. Start to build your connections. Start to think about your path forward, your path to victory, as we call it in politics. Start to make your affiliations and get your mentorship going. Be thinking about how you're going to get there. If you're not a person who comes from the machine, as it's known in New York, or from a dynasty, or like George Conway built it over time. You could do that. But be thinking about, if you want to serve, if you're about service, it shouldn't be about self-aggrandizement or about ego or about power. But if it's about service, think about how you're going to lay the path to service if you don't come from those traditional means that have allowed other people to serve when perhaps your history has not been along those lines.
Jami, a wealth of knowledge. I've been telling this to Mert now for years. This is exactly the path that he should follow. Could you do me a favor and encourage him to run for office? I think he would make a great leader.
I certainly will. I certainly will. I'm a big fan of Mert, as you know, and of yours, Lucas.
Oh, we love you back. Unfortunately, Jami, we have run out of time. Will you come back? Can we get you to come back to continue this conversation?
I would love to come back. Let's talk again. We can talk about so many other things. We can talk about pop culture,
and I want to talk about a little bit
about San Antonio, Texas.
Absolutely, and your career, amazing career. Pleasure and honor having you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
What a delight. Thank you so much.
And just in case you were wondering, my friends, you are listening to episode 92 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. We just heard from the amazing Jami Floyd. Mert and I are big fans. This is Lucas Ferrara, and with me in the studio at AM 970, located in the heart of the financial district in downtown Manhattan, my co-host, Mert Roberts. He's affectionately known as the Mertonator. Working the board, none other than Alex Garrett. He's got a 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Please check it out. Now, when we come back, we'll be joined by Dr. John R. Lott. He's an economist and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, known for his data-driven research on crime, public safety, real-world impact of policy. Me, Mert, Alex, all of us in AM 970 will return after these quick messages. After the break, Dr. John Lott will walk in, data in hand, myths on notice. He's getting ready to challenge the stories we think you know. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. Come on back. Go, 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 go.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
You know, life moves fast. Staying sharp, focused, and clear-headed isn't always easy. That's why the same company that brings you Relief Factor has developed something brand new, Think Factor. Think Factor is made to help you think clearer and perform better daily. It's a powerful blend of nutrients that unlocks mental clarity and precision, nurtures your memory, boosts your attention. With Think Factor, brain power and performance finally meet for lasting daily results. Supercharge your memory, mental sharpness. Your brain is your most valuable asset, powering your creativity, focus, and daily performance. If you're feeling mentally foggy, give it a try. After a couple of weeks of taking Think Factor, it was a game changer for me. Look, the longer you take Think Factor, the better it works for you. If you've ever thought you want to be more clear, more focused, call 800-4RELIEF. 800, the number 4RELIEF, or visit ReliefFactor.com to learn more and order Think Factor. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily. Call 800-4RELIEF or visit ReliefFactor.com for Think Factor.
Right now, children across Latin America and the Caribbean are sitting and waiting, many of them starting the day hungry. Without food, it's nearly impossible to focus, to learn, to dream. That's why Food for the Poor and me, Joe Piscopo, invite you to provide a nutritious meal and safe water. It fuels learning, keeps kids healthy, and ensures a brighter future. And it's so easy for you to help. Right now, because of a generous match, for a limited time, $150 feeds 4 children for the next year. $300 helps 8 kids, and any gift you give right now will be matched and provide for twice as many kids. Your gift fills hungry bellies and supports local churches working alongside Food for the Poor for decades, strengthening entire communities. So how many children will you help today? Click the Give Life banner, please, at am970theanswer.com or call right now, 855-907-4673. That's Food for Today, Hope for Tomorrow.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Now that's an interesting one, Alex. What's that one called?
All right, this is called Matchbox Detective by Brol Filmer. I like this one.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Our next guest is a detective of sorts. Dr. John Richard Lott Jr. is an economist and internationally recognized researcher on guns, crime, and public policy statistics. He's the founder and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, a nonprofit research organization dedicated to producing empirical data-driven analysis on crime patterns, firearm policy, and public safety. Look forward to speaking to him about that. Now, during the Trump administration, Lott served as a senior advisor for research and statistics in the Office of Justice Programs and later in the Office of Legal Policy at the U.S. Department of Justice. Over the course of his academic career, he has held research and teaching positions at leading institutions across the country, including the University of Chicago, Yale, the Wharton School, Stanford, UCLA, and Rice. Lott holds a Ph.D. in economics from UCLA. Welcome to the program, Dr. Lott.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure and honor. Now, for listeners who may not know the Crime Prevention Research Center, what is its core mission and how does it approach studying crime and public safety trends?
Well, we're basically a group of academics who do research on a variety of crime issues, everything from policing to vote fraud to gun control type things. If it's something to do with crime, then there is a chance that we've done something on it. And, we look at stuff just not in the United States, but around the world. I mean, recently I've been in Australia or Argentina, many other countries to go and talk about policing and crime rates in those countries.
Now, how does your organization decide what topics or policy debates to study? Is it driven by public interest, legislative activity, gaps in existing research? How does it work?
It's a bunch of different things. Obviously, if something's being considered for legislation or whatever, and we'll look at it or update research that we've done before. Some of it just depends on whether professors are particularly interested in a particular topic or not. But a lot of it's driven by kind of real-world debates that occur.
Now, a major part of your work involves analyzing firearm-related crime data. Now, what are the most misunderstood statistics in this area based on your research?
Well, I'm not even sure where to start on something like that. I mean, there's all sorts of things that people get wrong. You frequently hear that the United States is somehow unique in terms of mass public shootings.
Yes,
that's simply not true. If you look at the top 95 countries that we have data for, the United States ranks something around 64th in per capita rates.
Whoa!
But people don't adjust for. First of all, people don't hear about a lot of the attacks in other countries. And that's understandable to some extent. I mean, if the media is going to cover something, they're much more likely to cover something that happens in the United States than they are in some other countries. But they also don't adjust for population differences. So, if you just take something like mass public school shootings, these are attacks where 4 or more people have been killed in a shooting. Since 2000, the United States has had 9. A country like Germany's had 3. But the thing is, Germany has like 83 million people. We have almost 350 million people. And so nobody would compare the number of murders in New York versus Rhode Island, okay? They're going to go and look at the per capita rates of those. And when you do that, given that they have less than a fourth of the population, that would be the equivalent of the United States having 12 rather than 9. Or you look at a country like Finland, over that period of time, they've had 2 mass public school shootings. But they have a population of 5.5 million people, less than a 60th the number of people that we have here in the United States. So that would be the equivalent of us having 120. And for some reason, even though the media people would, if you're talking about murders, put everything in per capita terms, they refuse to do that when you're talking about things like these mass public shootings. I suppose the one thing that is my biggest pet peeve with the media coverage is that they absolutely refuse to go and cover those parts of the diaries and manifestos where these mass murderers explain why they pick the targets that they do. And what you find is that over and over and over again, they're very explicit. These guys spend lots of time. 6 months is a small amount of time on average for them to plan these attacks. It can be, a year or 2.5 years that they plan it. And what they say is they try to pick gun-free zones. They try to pick places where they know their victims aren't going to be able to defend themselves. Their goal is to get media coverage, and they know the more people they kill, the more media coverage that they're going to be able to get. And they know if they go and to a place where their victims aren't able to defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people and get more media coverage. You have something like the Minneapolis school shooting that occurred last fall. The guy in his manifesto explained that he had been studying other mass shooters and that he had seen that they had picked places where guns were banned. So that's how he picked the target that he did, the particular school. But not only that, it also affected the time of day, because he was worried that if he did it in the morning when parents were dropping off kids at school or in the afternoon when they're picking them up, he was worried that one of the parents might have a permanent concealed handgun and might use it to go and stop his attack before he could go and kill many people. And, I don't know, maybe somebody can explain to me, but I just don't understand why that's not newsworthy. I mean, you will look at Vane to find, they'll go, in the case of the Minneapolis case, they'll go and to great lengths talking about the manifesto, saying, he's talking about all these other mass school shooters and mass murderers generally. And that's true. But the reason why he was talking about them was what he had learned from them on where to go and attack and how to do the attack. And for some reason, the news media just doesn't find that newsworthy at all. My own guess is that the whole gun control debate that we have right now would be dramatically different if even once in a while they would say, we have had yet another mass public shooting where the person went to a place where guns were banned so that he thought he could go and kill more people there.
Wow, Doc, this is amazing stuff. This is amazing stuff, Doc. Yes, go ahead, Mert.
Let me ask a question. So, because I support people owning guns, but if I were to ask you, if everybody owns a gun, what is the desired effect of everyone owning a gun? Is it intimidation because you fear someone else might have a gun? Is it, all right, if something starts to happen, you can pull out your gun and shoot someone and stop them if they're trying to rob? Like, what is what would be your messaging? Because there's different approaches people usually take with this, because there's some people out there who want you to be like a vigilante. If you see some kids disturbing things, pull your gun out and shoot it at them and they'll stop it. But there's others who say, I just want the gun on me for protection. So what is your approach?
Right. Well, I don't think everybody has to own a gun. The fact that some people own a gun makes it riskier for criminals to go and commit crimes. It's not rocket science. If you want to reduce crime, you make it risky in many ways. Higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences. The fact that victims might be able to go and defend themselves. All those things make it riskier for criminals to go and commit crime. I'll give you a simple example of the deterrence effect. We have something called hot burglaries. These are burglaries that occur while the residents are at home. And we have data for many countries. I'll just compare it to the UK. The UK has a burglary rate that's about twice as high as the burglary rate in the United States. 59% of the burglaries in the UK take place while the residents are at home. In the United States, it's 13%. In the United States, the time that burglars like to break in the home is like 2 p.m. In the UK, they like to break in at 9 p.m. And one other fact, American burglars spend about twice as long casing a home before they break in compared to their British counterparts. How do all those things fit together? American burglars are worried about getting shot. And so they want to go to break in when people are likely not to be home during the middle of the day. And even then, they spend twice as long casing a home to make doubly sure that nobody's home before they break in. Their British counterparts like to break in the evening when people are home, precisely to be able to force them to tell them where their valuables are. American burglars presumably would like to be able to force people to tell them where they've hidden the valuables inside the home, but they know the risk of possibly getting shot more than outweighs that, and so they don't, they forego that benefit of being able to go and force people to tell them where their valuables are. And so, the notion, I would argue, is basically one of defense. For police are extremely important, but the police themselves know that they virtually always arrive on the crime scene after the crimes occurred. And then the question is, what should people do when they're having to confront a criminal by themselves? And what you find is that by far the safest course of action for people to take when they're confronted by a criminal is to have a gun. And that's particularly true for people who are relatively weaker physically, women and the elderly.
Hey, Doc, hold that. We have to take a quick commercial break, but have no fear. Dr. John Lott will be rejoining us after these quick commercial messages. For more information about Dr. Lott and the Crime Prevention Research Center, visit crimeresearch.org. All right, stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages with Dr. Lott.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Warrant Officer 1 Stuart Wainment. Valuing liberty, freedom, and service, Stuart joined the Army. He graduated from Army Aviation School and received many honors and awards during his distinguished career, until a mid-air collision during a training exercise took Stuart's life. He leaves behind his wife, Kira, and their 3 sons. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family's home. The kindness of people across the country alleviated Kira's financial burden and brought support for her children's future needs. She is grateful that her children can grow up in a safe place, supported by family members who keep Stuart's memory alive. Kira wants you to know that her husband was a good, hardworking man, an amazing father who put his all into everything he did. You can help more families like Stuart's. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. If you're thinking about buying a home or refinancing the one you already have, let me suggest something that can make the process a whole lot easier. Call First Christian Mortgage. They're a faith-based direct lender, and that's important. It means you're working directly with the people who are handling your loan. What I really like about their approach is how they take the time with you. They'll sit down, explain your mortgage options, answer your questions, and help you understand exactly what makes sense for your situation. And they even offer a free mortgage consultation so you can get solid guidance before making a big financial decision. So if a home purchase or refinance is on your mind, reach out and talk with them. Ask for Ryan and the First Christian Mortgage team. 888-834-8880 or visit firstchristianmortgage.com.
Great endorsement by Joe Piscopo for First Christian Mortgage, NMLS number 7230, 3601 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 305, Levittown, New York 11756. Licensed by New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance. This is an advertisement for a first mortgage loan, not a commitment to lend. Program subject to change. Equal housing lender.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Dr. John R. Lott Jr. is an economist and internationally recognized researcher on guns, crime, and public policy statistics, and the founder of the Crime Prevention Research Center. He previously served as senior advisor for research and stats at the U.S. Department of Justice and has held academic posts at the University of Chicago, Yale, Wharton, Stanford, UCLA, Rice, earning his Ph.D. in economics from UCLA. For more information about Dr. Lott and the Crime Prevention Research Center, visit johnrlott.com or crimeresearch.org. We'll post the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. So before Mert gets his way with you, Doc, you make a very convincing argument before the break about how guns deter crime and deter criminals. So there's something to be said about permitting people to carry licenses. In Florida, a lot of people carry, and we don't see craziness down in Florida. But in New York, it's like verboten. It's restricted. So, it's weirdness. Is this anti-gun policy misplaced, Doc?
Right. Well, outside of California, New York, about 10% of the adult population in the United States has a concealed carry permit. On top of that, you have 29 so-called constitutional carry states, the vast majority of the area of the country, where it's not even necessary any longer even to have a permit. And, what you find is that the type of person who goes through the process to get a permit tends to be extremely law-abiding. I know there's all sorts of fears about what might happen in New York and other places. But what you find is that permit holders are extremely law-abiding. These individuals are convicted of firearms-related crimes at 1/12 the rate that the police are, and the police themselves are very rarely convicted of firearms-related crimes at about 1/20th the rate of the general population. It's hard to find almost any other group in the population that's as law-abiding as those who go through the process to get a concealed carry permit. So, and the main reason that they lose their permits for permit holders has nothing to do with any type of violence or anything. The main reason is they don't have their permit with them sometimes, or they accidentally carry their permanent concealed handgun into a gun-free zone.
So would you say that the permit is actually a bad idea? Because if that's what it takes to get my gun rights revoked, is a situation such as that, then that puts me in a situation where if I do obtain a gun, I'm a criminal, and it still puts a barrier out there for people who say, can I just go to Walmart and buy a gun or something like that and just protect myself? I got to go get a license and all this stuff. It's too many steps. Would you say that anybody should just be able to go get a gun? Would you be in support of that?
Well, even in the constitutional carry states, not anybody can go and carry a gun. You have to be able to legally own a gun.
No. That's why I'm asking you. Would you be in favor of that? I'm asking you. Would that be a good idea in your opinion?
I think there are real advantages to having constitutional carry, not having a permit. Here, I can give you a couple. One is, let's say a woman's being stalked or threatened. She, right now, and about the fastest you can get a permit in places that issue a permit, maybe 45 days. In Connecticut, next door to you guys, it can be over a year to go and get a concealed carry permit. If a woman's being stalked or threatened, she may not have 2 weeks, let alone 45 days or a year, to be able to go and get a concealed carry permit to protect herself. The other thing is just the cost. If my research convinces me of anything, the two groups of people who benefit the most are people who are weaker physically, women and the elderly, and the people who are the most likely victims of violent crime. And that overwhelmingly tends to be poor blacks who live in high-crime urban areas. In New York City, it's very costly to even go through the process of trying to get a concealed carry permit. You have to pay like $400 and some to apply to be able to go and get a permit. And the thing is, when you have those fees, so I'll give you a simple example. Illinois and Indiana, right next to each other. In Illinois, only about 4% of the adult population has a concealed carry permit. In Indiana, it's 23%. Why the difference? Well, it's pretty simple to explain. In Illinois, it costs about $450 to go through the process to get a concealed carry permit. In Indiana, it costs $0. They don't even charge you for the background check that's there. But it's more than just the percent of the population that gets it. You also greatly change the mix. In Illinois, It's overwhelmingly wealthy whites who live in the suburbs. You know, it's great that they're able to protect themselves, but that's not where the crime is.
Right.
In Indiana, you see poor zip codes, heavily minority zip codes, have a lot more concealed carry permits. If you're going to reduce the crime, you have to have the people who are likely victims of violent crime be able to go and defend themselves.
Well, let me ask you one thing. Before you keep going,
Sure.
let me ask you one thing, because this is one thing that people who, you know, are against guns use as an argument. They talk about the crime in minority communities. They say if you invite guns in, then there might be more crime. But let me ask you this. What about in poor white communities? What about the gun ownership there? Does it protect poor whites owning guns?
No, it protects poor people in general. People
No.
who are
But I'm
most
saying,
likely,
like, keep it narrow it down to poor white communities. Does it protect those areas? Do you have any data?
It does.
On
All I'm saying is you have a bigger beneficial impact. I'm not saying you don't have a beneficial impact in the other case. I'm just saying you have a bigger beneficial impact in those areas where the crime is the highest. You know, the notion that somehow the criminals aren't getting guns. You know, what you do is if you make it costly for law-abiding citizens to go through the legal process to get it, they're the ones who are stopping. I'll give you a simple example. There are a number of places, including in the United States, which have tried to ban guns. We tried to ban handguns in Chicago and Washington, D.C. Every place in the world that's tried to ban either all guns or all handguns has seen murder rates go up, often by 3, 4, even 7-fold increases immediately after the ban's gone into effect.
Wow.
You know, in the case of Washington, D.C. and Chicago, they say, well, that's not a fair test because unless you ban guns, every place in the country, people could still go and get guns from Maryland and Virginia or from Illinois, rest of Illinois or Indiana or whatever. And that's true, but that doesn't explain why it went up because people could get those guns from those other places to begin with. You know, it would have been nice if they had told us that it was going to cause crime to go up. But even island nations, which you think would be the ideal experiment there, have seen huge increases, whether it be Jamaica or the Solomon Islands or the Republic of Ireland or the UK. Every single time, you think out of randomness, once or twice, murder rates would at least even stay the same or maybe fall once or twice, but every single time it goes up. And there's a simple reason for that, and that is when you go and and this applies to more than just a ban, if you pass a law that is primarily obeyed by law-abiding good citizens, you know, the ones who go through the types of processes that you were just talking about a minute ago, and it disarms them relative to the criminals, you make it relatively easier for the criminals to go and commit crime.
Doctor, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I mean, this was a great discussion. You make convincing arguments, and we have to have you come back on. But for more info about the good doctor and his organization, visit John R. Lott, LOTT.com, or visit crimeresearch.org. We'll post the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Thanks for coming on the program, Doc. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, people should just go to crimeresearch.org. That has everything that we're talking about.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, that concludes show number 92. May I hear an amen? Amen. Special thanks to the Mertonator, Mert Roberts, my co-host. 92 amazing episodes, 184 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, you try it. And to my friend Alex Garrett, where are you, Garrett? Are you there? Thank you.
Oh, this was just a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it was great. I think I need to get a gun. Couldn't have done it without you, Alex. Check out his 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And to everyone behind the scenes at AM 970 Radio, Laura Schaefer, Matthew Samblin, Joe Sabia, Frank Volpe, Ryan Pagano, and many more, our sincerest thanks. Before we go, I'd like to remind everyone, check out my movies. They're streaming everywhere. The biggest hit, Manor of Darkness, an eerie time loop horror. You'll find it on Amazon, Google Play, and YouTube. Last month, the New York Times selected Manor of Darkness one of the top 5 movies you should stream. So what are you waiting for? Go check out my films. Now, if you're listening to us live and you happen to be a foodie or happen to work in the restaurant industry, you have to check out Culinary Confidential, starring my good friend Christina Cates. Her show will be coming up in a few minutes, 9 p.m. Eastern, right after the news. I love her program, and each week she has great guests you won't want to miss. Now stay tuned for Culinary Confidential, and join us next week when we'll have more controversial topics, more special guests just for you. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
In times like these, we all need a word of encouragement. From pastor and best-selling author Max Lucado comes the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast. With over 40 years of ministry and more than 145 million books sold in 50 languages, Max shares the greatest story ever told, the living Savior who brings hope for a lifetime. Through rich biblical insight, heartfelt storytelling, you'll be reminded that God is always near, always for you, and always in you. Listen to the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast, where hope meets your day. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.